Welcome to this Yellow Farmhouse, a podcast by me, Dayna Dyer, a knitting designer and cozy living blogger from an 1834 farmhouse in Illinois. I'm a mom of 3 girls and a cinnamon roll enthusiast with a case of the cozies. This Yellow Farmhouse is for my fellow lovers of all things cozy and for those seeking a simpler, slow life. I believe home is the comfiest place to be, especially when you're equipped with a good read and a wild homebody imagination. I unsubscribed from almost everything. Every magazine that was being snail mailed to my house, I just wasn't finding joy in anymore. Parenting magazines were no longer striking a chord with me. Sadly, my kids aren't eating cauliflower no matter how well it's hidden. And most home decor magazines just weren't my style. They all seemed too full of trendy and colorful pieces and prints that I'm just not as drawn to in my house. Sure, I used to love opening the mailbox to see something for myself that wasn't a bill or junk mail, but I found myself too often flipping through really quickly just so I could recycle them. That is, after I finally picked them up 2 months after they had already arrived. Which means most of the seasonal content was no longer even relevant. So frustrated, I unsubscribed from most of my magazines I was getting. Then one day in the fall, a Facebook group that I'm in had a thread pop up about something called a Hygge magazine. Whoa. Okay, that stopped me in my tracks. I scrolled through the thread, saved the post, and screenshotted handfuls of recommendations. It sounded right up my alley until I discovered the price tag. But when I saw what the sneaky little Santa left under the tree on Christmas morning, I immediately knew why it cost almost $20. These things aren't magazines, they're books. They're treasures that you don't read once and then recycle or pass on. Hygge magazines are bookshelf magazines. They're coffee table magazines if you don't have small children who will eat them, like I do. They're so packed full of beautiful photography, cozy lists, and really, really good stories that will make you wish for 3 more months of winter. At least the issues that Santa left under our tree had that effect on me. So I'm still working my way through these 3 issues that I have of Bella Grace and Willow and Sage. And no, I don't get any commission to be talking about them. I just am that obsessed. Like I said, they're like books that I'll keep forever to reference and reread. So intrigued, I researched more Hygge magazines and decided the world, or at least this little corner of the world, needs to know about them if you don't already. So I'm putting pencil to paper and sharing with you a Hygge magazine roundup that will keep you cozy long after Christmas. So there are 3 reasons that I think I'm so drawn to Hygge magazines. And number 1 is the content. So Bella Grace states that one type of content found in their magazines are known as listicles. And that makes my list-making heart sing. In one issue alone, I'm finding a list of unexpected sources of coziness and cozy playlists. And these aren't like minuscule top 10 lists by any means. These lists are extensive, cover multiple pages, and are often submitted by the actual readers. The baked bread in these pages looks somehow tastier than anything I've had in my whole life, and now I'm also determined to get my kitchen and baking skills to that level of cozy. So I'm also really into the photography. As someone who really loves taking cozy photos of candles and knitting and coffee and books, I'm head over heels for the pictures I'm coming across throughout the pages. I'm finding inspiration for my home, my crafting, and my own photography. And who knows, maybe one day I'll open the pages and find one of my own photos inside. Dream big, right? Okay, so number 3, I really like the writers. So a lot of times readers like you and me are the ones who are submitting entire articles or lists to small independent Hygge magazines, which makes sense, right? The staff listed inside the cover is a whole lot smaller than at like a Better Homes and Gardens, and they rely on story submissions. So I especially love that I'm being exposed to like-minded cozy lovers who I can find out more about, whether it's a blog or more photography or an Instagram account that I can follow. So I've done a roundup of these cozy magazines over on my blog, which will be linked down below, These are all lifestyle magazines ranging from things like cozy creative spaces and home interiors to gardening and cooking, all with beautiful photography and really captivating stories if you're interested in checking them out and adding them to your cozy winter reading list. Just like the softest chunky sweater or the perfect coffee to creamer ratio, reading something that speaks to your soul so clearly can change the way you experience life. For a week straight, I found myself staying up late to read under the candlelight instead of mindlessly wind down on my phone. Reading Hygge magazines is a great, cozy winter hobby to pick up. So my first Bella Grace magazine reading experience will stick with me. My stash of future issues will probably absolutely grow, and maybe one day I'll see my name in those pages. But for now, on this wintry morning, I can be peaceful knowing that there are so many friends out in the world, all over the world, like you and me, who are just prioritizing cozy in their lives and sharing their journeys with us through the pages of a magazine. Which leads me to this week's Homebody in the Wild. I feel like I should have like a Sasquatch sound effect, kind of like the woodpecker at the start of my Outside My Window segment. Anyway, just know that I'm imagining Sasquatch meandering through our woods while I'm introducing this segment, okay? So I've become a slightly less active homebody in the wild in 2021, and that's because I'm starting this new thing called grocery shopping every other week. I don't love grocery shopping, and I was doing it every week. Not so bad, right? Usually on a Saturday morning, and when you include driving into town and back, though, the whole ordeal took about probably 2 hours, which eats up one entire weekend morning every week. And it's not something cozy or something that I enjoy, especially in the winter in the Midwest of the USA. It's very snowy and cold. So this month, I've been getting a little more intentional and strict on a meal plan for us, and it's actually making me feel more at ease and cozy than I thought it would. I don't love like hard, unforgiving rules, especially ones that I set for myself, I'm noticing. I'm spending less money and actually more time at home with my people, and it's also turning me into more of a creative cook in a way. So I've actually been following the advice from Kendra over at The Lazy Genius. She has a podcast. If you don't know her, she's amazing. She's wonderful. Her advice is to create a list of brainless crowd pleasers, okay? So these are any number of meals, literally whatever number you're comfortable with, that you know how to make, basically without a recipe. So for her, that's like 35 meals, and for me, it's realistically probably more like 15. I'm talking like recipes that are so easy for you by now that you could do it without looking and like with a baby on your hip. Thank goodness for that. So between choosing 15 brainless crowd pleasers to rotate through and having less trips to the grocery store, I'm not getting my Sasquatch on as a homebody in the wild as much. But I do have one story. So the girls were getting a little cooped up this past week. They love being home, and we do get out and go play and have play dates, but you know, we're not home 24/7 as much as a homebody that I am. But I could see them coming down from this like high of Christmas and being with family after not seeing some of them for a while. So we decided to go for a road trip. It was beautiful. We didn't go far, but the snow is gorgeous. And we haven't had any new heavy snow, so the roads have all been cleared. So we road tripped not far from our house, and we drove to see some alpacas. So there's an alpaca farm on the way to my parents' house where you can just see them from the road and you can pull over and watch. And so we decided that we should go see if alpacas like the snow because, you know, like Andes Mountains and all that. So sadly, they were not out. I think we were there a little too close to dinner time. We got there like right before sunset. So we finished the trip with actually a stop at Grandma and Grandpa's, and I just have to say how happy it makes my heart seeing all the snowmen and snow forts that we saw out in the front yards. So we don't live in a subdivision anymore, but when we did, I feel like I rarely saw kids and neighbors out playing. In the summer, in the winter, we lived next to an elementary school too, and so it made me really happy to drive through my parents' neighborhood and see that kids are out there using their imaginations, building forts and snow angels. and I get cozy and excited when my kids go outside to play in the snow because I know it's good for them to be outside and like have unstructured playtime and build things with their own two hands or mittens. Okay, by now you should know that I'm a cozy enthusiast. It's just a term. I don't know if it's a real term, if I made it up, but it's what I am. It's how I identify myself. So let's look at what's given me a case of the cozies this week. Candlelight. So if you've been around here for a bit, you know I'm kind of into candles. I love the cozy atmosphere they bring, and they smell amazing, but the darker winter nights are really making me appreciate candles even more, but this time as light sources. Our living room has an overhead light on the fan and a floor lamp over in the corner, and so every night I have the same routine. We come downstairs after putting the kids to bed and turn off the overhead light, leaving on the floor lamp for a cozy evening with the crown. But what's given me a case of the cozies is candlelight. So I feel like it's just therapeutic to walk around the downstairs and light all of my candles. Just set everything on fire. But really, everything has like a surreal glow, and it feels just a little bit more Laura Ingalls, and I could always use a little bit more of that in my life. Okay, let's head over into the knitting nook. You know how excited you get when you order yarn for a new project? You know, like you feel it almost in your bones, and sometimes it sneaks out as a wiggle of joy, or it barrels through as a full-on happy dance. Okay, so that's what I felt a year ago when I picked out my Christmas present that I had asked my husband for, which was the Kara sweater kit from We Are Knitters. I'd actually never knit a closed sweater before. I'd only done a cardigan, and so I was so excited. So excited, in fact, that I actually either told him the complete wrong size or I didn't measure myself right. I'm not really sure, because here's the problem. I was 4 months pregnant with baby number 3 when I measured and told him what size I thought I'd be a year later. But I was very wrong, because I've had 3 babies in just over 4 years. So sometimes I actually look down at my belly and I'm surprised how it's not basketball sized and pulling at my belly button. I've been pregnant so much over the past 5 years that I'm like legitimately surprised when I look down and remember, oh yeah, that was last time. I'm not pregnant this year. So I didn't actually go back down to flat stomach status, but I certainly don't have the bump I did where for 3 different pregnancies, the doctor said the baby would be enormous and people would always ask if I was having twins. But I thought I was measuring myself to order the right kit size by subtracting what I thought a non-pregnant me would be a year later. Apparently, I was already bigger than I thought I was at 4 months along, because I was way off. Like way off, you guys. So in today's Knitting Nook, I have a PSA for all my cozy kit buying and pattern choosing knitting friends out there. You guys, don't pull a me and choose a non-maternity sweater to start knitting when you're halfway through a pregnancy. Just don't put yourself through that heartache, because here's the kicker. I was so close to finishing said sweater in the summer, and then I realized I was 1 skein short. And We Are Knitters sold out until after New Year's. So somewhere along the line, I'm really not sure which wrong stop I got off at. Either I ordered the right size, but pregnancy brain told me I was actually knitting the next size up after the yarn arrived, or I legit lost that last skein of yarn. So I don't know. That's all I have in the Knitting Nook today, but I feel like a lot of us take the winter after Christmas to decide our projects for the upcoming year, or we at least buy a few new patterns that we want to try once like the Christmas season and all the gift knitting is done. So I wanted to pass along the almost too obvious advice of just measuring yourself correctly and thinking about when that project is going to be done and will it fit the person that it's made for. So this is especially true when you're knitting for babies and kids because they grow like weeds, or if you are a woman with a changing body, aka you're creating and birthing a human, because We put our hearts and our souls into our knits, and even though I'm going to wear this oversized bear hug of a sweater, it's not what I was dreaming of, and it's kind of a little bit of a bummer. And I want you to have your dream knits. So, to be clear, I'm not snarking on We Are Knitters whatsoever. I'm snarking on my own unfortunate pregnancy brain. Alright, I didn't mean to bring the mood down. I feel like we need to peek out the window, no? I think let's take a cozy dive into the outdoors from the comfort of our own four walls. So here's a look outside my window today. This is like everything I love about winter. It's gorgeous outside. There aren't any new snowstorms that we have to actually go outside and clean up from. And honestly, it just looks like a frozen picture that you'd come across while scrolling through Instagram posts of Norway. Not that I've ever spent hours doing that. I have. There's still so much snow on the ground for playing in, and everything out there is just so bright and calm. And even though it's the literal image of cold and ice from inside our house with candles lit and chili mac in the slow cooker, it feels so cozy. Like we're just like wrapped in this snowy winter hug, which I love. So that's where I'll leave you all, hopefully feeling a warm hug and feeling a little cozier. Thank you guys so much for listening today. I love chatting with you all. Please continue the chat in the comments below. I really do love hearing your thoughts and your stories. I love that you guys leave comments that are like actual bits and pieces of your life, and you're like telling me stories back and we're just talking to each other. That's so awesome. Or if you don't want to do it publicly, you can send me an email at thisyellowfarmhouse@gmail.com and I'll chat with you guys there. So I'll list all the actual Hygge magazine recommendations in the description, as well as any other show notes and links mentioned, including what I'm knitting. So have a wonderful rest of your week and stay cozy.